how to study for 16 hours a day.
And study for 12 hours a day.
I was able to study for about 14 hours relatively easily.
And I was studying for a combined 8 to 10 hours a day.
How did you study for 12 hours a day for over a year?
You've probably seen plenty of videos of people expressing how much they can study, and then teaching you how to reach that exact same level of deep focus to get those same 8, 10, 12 hours done. But what if I told you this might be terrible advice taken at face value? Don't get me wrong, studying a lot can be beneficial, but is it the right decision for you? Is it worth it in your case? I'm going to try and help you figure that out. There are two concepts that I'd like to introduce to you, and I'm willing to bet these will completely change your outlook on studying. Ready? Let's go. Number one is something called the 80-20 rule, or the Pareto principle, named after Italian economist Vilfredo Pareto. He observed that 80% of the country's land was owned by just 20% of the population. This rule was then generalized further to say that 80% of outcomes are just from 20% of causes. We can apply this in many fields, like maybe business management or time management, or even in our case, studying. The idea is that it's more important to focus on high yield topics because they are going to give us a better return on investment later down the line. Of course, you can focus on all topics equally, but you have to remember that there is an uneven distribution of importance. See, the way I see it, studying is a logarithmic curve. Going from 20 minutes a day to 1 hour a day is a massive jump, and you'll see an amazing increase in performance. Going from 1 hour to 2 is still a pretty big jump, but it's a smaller percentage. Going from 2 hours all the way up to 3 hours, or 3 hours to 4 hours, or 4 hours to 5 hours, each jump becomes less and less significant. And by the time you get to 8, 10, 12 hours, you're fighting for those final tiny percentages in your exams. The second concept is something called Parkinsons Law, which states that work expands to fill the time allotted for its completion. Basically what this means is, if you give yourself 1 hour to do a certain task, you will probably take up that whole hour. Whereas if you give yourself a month to do the exact same task, you will drag that task out until it takes a whole month to complete. How is this relevant for us? Well, say you had a certain number of chapters that you wanted to study. There are two ways to go about doing this. First of all, you can say, I'm going to sit down and finish this as fast as I can and get these topics done. Or you can say, today I'm going to sit down for X amount of minutes or X amount of hours and see how that time gets filled up. Obviously, if you pick the second option, you're going to be spending a lot more time unproductively. So how can you avoid these two major pitfalls of time-based studying? Well, there are two routes that you can go down. One is optimization and one is efficiency. And you have to choose which of those is best for you, and you have to be true to yourself in that. So I find the way to do this is by goal setting, smart goal setting. So set goals for the day and for the year or the course in general. Micro goal setting and macro goal setting. In macro goal setting, you have to understand what is your ultimate preferred outcome. Are you trying to get 100%, become the top of your class, be an absolute expert in this field? Or are you trying to be above average? Or are you trying to be average? Or are you just trying to pass? Because people fall on all points of that spectrum, and you have to identify exactly where you are. See, in A-levels, you can get 75% in an exam and get an A star. That's the highest grade possible. Now, if you got an A star with 75%, or you got it with 100%, nobody is gonna know. So you have to ask yourself, does it really matter to you? Are those extra hours going to give you any meaningful benefit? And if you still can't decide, ask yourself these two questions. 1, do I need to study this much? Sometimes there is no way around a lot of studying. Sometimes there's just so much content, or the content is just so difficult that you just have to. So that can be one option. Or 2, do I really want to? Sometimes a subject might be so interesting, you're so deep into it that you really enjoy sitting down and studying for hours on end. In which case, by all means, I know plenty of people in school who absolutely loved maths. They'd do it in their spare time, whenever they got the chance. And you know what, if that's you, keep at it, bro. It's good. And before I go too off topic, coming back to the point of goal setting, micro goal setting, so setting goals for the day, set yourself a certain number of questions or past papers or topics you want to learn for that day. Don't set yourself time-based goals, as in I want to study for 2 hours or 3 hours or 5 hours, because in the end you're going to be just spreading out your work to fill that time up. Parkinsons Law. So set yourself realistic goals of what you can achieve in one day and work at it. And if you've gone down the path of efficiency, then it's very useful to create a priority list of topics or find one that older students have made. Finding a priority list can tell you where to focus the majority of your attention, or you can just do plenty of past papers, because by default, past papers will show you the most often tested questions. The more past papers you do, you'll be covering the most tested topics more and more frequently, and especially at times like GCSEs and A-levels, there is an abundance of past papers, and this is by far one of the most efficient ways to study. You'll be getting a random amount of information, and all of it will be specific to how things are really examined in the actual exam. So I hope this video gives you a better outlook on how much to study. Be true to yourself in what you want to achieve and then work towards those specific goals, because obviously you might have other interests in life. You might want to spend time on a business, on the gym, on your social life. There are plenty of things aside from studying that you have to be building in your life, and if you want to spend time on those things, that's perfectly fine. Or maybe you're a workhorse who can do it all, in which case, good on you. That's amazing and keep at it, but don't tire yourself out. Anyway, if this video helps you, then leave a like, subscribe, and leave a comment below to help the algorithm, and I'll see you next time.